So I, nearly adult female, have a half-sister, Leah, tween. Leah and I share the same mom, but my stepdad is her dad. My dad died a few months before my mom got married. My stepdad, for years, has tried to take over as the dad in my life. He wanted to adopt me and change my name. He tells people I'm his daughter and that he's my dad. My mom does the same. She was angry with me for a couple of years for ending the adoption dream. They decided that Leah didn't need to know, so they've always told her we were full sisters, and it just took them a while to have her. Leah has often questioned why I call her dad by his name. It's always been something I've told my mom and stepdad that they need to fix, because I would tell her the truth someday. They said I was not allowed to, and that I could see this as a chance to let my stepdad be just my dad, and to stop with the childish nonsense that I've been keeping up for the last decade. Leah grew more and more questioning about it, so a few weeks ago, I told her the truth. After telling my mom it would happen, I showed her photos of my dad. I told her I still loved her, but that her dad was not mine. She asked if I disliked her dad, and I told her simply he could never replace my dad. She told me she'd feel the same way if hers died and mom remarried. I told her I was glad she understood. She asked me if it made me sad or mad when people said the wrong thing about him being my dad. I said it did, that I didn't like it much, but I tried not to hold it against people. They were so angry when my mom and stepdad realized that I had told Leah. I was grounded for 3 weeks for going against them and for putting Leah in a bad situation. I argued back at the time that they were the ones who lied. My stepdad said it was not a lie because despite legally and biologically not being my dad, he was the one who was there. He was the one who was walking me down the aisle one day, and he would be a grandpa to my future children. And he's the one who will have been my dad for more than a decade. I told him he'll always be my stepdad of a decade or 2 decades or 3 decades, but the step will always be there. They're still angry, and they upset Leah by correcting her and trying to make her call her dad my dad. So I feel bad now that she's got pressure on her to do what doesn't upset me. My mom has pointed out that it's all my fault. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Please get out of that house as quickly as you can. Your mom and stepdad are the ones acting childish. The adult thing to do is to admit the truth rather than live a lie. My dad literally visits the grave of my mom's first husband at least once a year and encouraged my older sister to have a relationship with her father's family. Your mom and stepdad are too immature to be proper parents. And it's funny that he just assumes that he'll be there to walk OP down the aisle or be a grandfather, like they're not doing everything to convince OP to cut them off the second she can. Like, yeah, in a normal, healthy version of this situation, it would be super touching to let stepdad take that spot. But in this situation, I would laugh in his face. I would tell her the truth someday. They said I wasn't allowed to. Why do so many parents try and play this stupid game? If more than one other person knows these family secrets, they will eventually come out. It causes more damage than if they had sat down and explained what happened and that they love each other. In any case, there's no turning back for any of them. Why not tell the truth? It is shocking that the tween half-sister has more empathy, understanding, and maturity than the parents. I feel terrible for both kids. They're probably using stepdad's last name on paper without the legal change. You can do this for a lot of things, actually. My high school boyfriend was registered under his stepdad's last name in school, but when it came time for legal things like his diploma, it was under his birth dad's name. Seriously, I want to smoke what the stepdad has been smoking. He seems to be way more delusional than my delusions of becoming a billionaire by 30. OP, reassure half-sister that you're sisters and will always love her. Get out of that house ASAP and cut contact with the entitled stepfather. And considering they're trying to force you to be his daughter, they may deny you contact with your sister once you leave. But the problem is someday she will leave also. It's all their fault. All of it. Every bit of it. I, 19 female, grew up with a very one-sided family dynamic. I have a great relationship with my father, and we've always gotten along with each other. He was way more present in my upbringing than my mother, and I prefer being with him overall. He was always there for me and never prioritized his job over family. My mother was more focused on her work than being a part of my life, which has drawn a wedge between us. I don't hate my mom, but I don't have nearly as close of a connection with her as I have with my father. Her work was always prioritized over my father and me. It felt like my parents weren't even married. My mother recently found out that my father's been having an affair with his coworker for the past 2 months. I had no idea about this, so this definitely came as a shock to me. They're getting divorced, and my mother plans to move out of our house soon. My mother told me that I should start packing my stuff so that we could move out as soon as she could sign a lease on an apartment. But to be honest, I don't really want to move out with her, and I'd much rather stay with my father. I know what he did was terrible, but I still wouldn't really feel at home or comfortable living alone with my mom. I know that if I live with my father, he'll continue supporting and caring for me like he's been doing, unlike my mother. When I told my mother I wanted to live with my father, she had a mental breakdown. She started telling me that my father broke up our family and that he's broke her, and that my choosing him over her was a massive betrayal from me towards her. My mother got really emotional, and I felt bad about all this. Am I the idiot? If your father's been the primary parent that provides for you, and that you feel the most comfortable, that's where you'll obviously want to be. He didn't cheat on you, so it may be easier for you to brush it off. But I think you do need to look at it from more of a different angle and understand what he did was crazy, selfish, and wrong. Kid, you don't know that he'll continue to support and care for you. You're assuming he will. His ability to do the right thing is now quite questionable, but it seems like you're choosing stability and the person who's kept choosing you over the years. So, not the idiot, really. Assuming that things are going to continue as usual with the father is a fool's gambit. Everything will change now. The likely outcome is that the side piece will become a more prominent role in the father's life and may even move in with them. And even if she's the loveliest woman on earth, which is unlikely as she willingly became the other woman, the dad will now have a significant other with whom he actually wants to spend time with. It won't just be daddy and daughter sticking it out like it used to be. More so if their mother's work allowed them to live this fondue table life of him taking care of her, and that's not even getting into an affair with a coworker that could have serious financial backlash. You are the idiot, OP. I hope your mom has a good life aside from you two. I hope she can forget that you guys even exist and go live her life how she wants to. My father earned more than my mother and took care of most of the bills at home. He was a hard worker, but always ensured he had time for the family and never let his career come between us. And because my father did so much for the family, my mother was rarely present. She was always focused on her career and put us on the back burner, which made us feel neglected. We always expressed to her how we felt, but she never listened. Do you feel as cheating on your mom was justified then? It just sounds like you're okay with everything that happened. Have you ever had a proper sit down with your mom about everything that happened? Has your father apologized or shown remorse at all? You do need to be extremely careful not to give your dad any sort of pass for what he's done just because you don't consider his actions to have affected your quality of life. It's summer break where I live. 2 days ago, my son, Tween, and his friend, also Tween, came up with plans to go to a movie during the day. I work remotely, and all the other parents have jobs that are in person, so I volunteered to drop them off at the movies in what I thought was a nice gesture. I knew I could plan a 15-30 minute break into my day. The friend rode his bike over a few hours before the movie. They're tweens, so I was paying attention to what they were doing, but I wasn't being overly watchful. Also, I was working. Anyway, they were up in my son's room playing Xbox and then running around the yard. I looked out to see them both jumping in the pool in their clothes. I wasn't annoyed. I just figured, whatever, they're tweens. and then I realized they needed to be at this movie in about a half an hour. I said, "Are you guys still going to the movie?" And they said yes. I pointed out that going to a movie soaking wet is a bad idea. I told my son to get changed and had his friend put on a set of my son's clothes. I took them to the movie, put the friend's clothes in the dryer while they were at the movies, and then put them in a bag for him to take home. I felt like an awesome dad, and I still managed to get my work done, dropped the kids off at a movie, made sure they weren't soaking wet, and picked them up from the movie. I got all that done before 4 p.m. To me, that felt like an achievement. My wife got home from work and said she was getting texts from the other mom. Basically, she was asking why her son was wearing our son's clothes, and then after talking to her son, heard the full story. She related that to my wife, and I pretty much said, "Yep, that's how it happened." Her take, and the other mom's take, was that I was irresponsible. A direct quote from my wife was, "Why did you let them go in the pool?" I was annoyed at this point. I said I didn't let them do anything. I was working and they jumped in, and then I took care of the situation. Somehow that snowballed into, I have it so easy working from home, and I need to do a better job of watching what our son and his friends do. Am I the idiot? Things have been tense between us for the past 2 days, and I feel like I should apologize just to make things okay. At the same time, I want her to apologize to me and say, "Thank you for working full-time and watching the kids." Not the idiot. You are the opposite of irresponsible. If anything, you should have asked your son and his friend if it was a smart idea to go see a movie soaking wet, and have them figure out what they should do from that point, instead of telling them to change, put their clothes in the dryer, etc. You generously provided free childcare for her kiddo while you were at work. What exactly was irresponsible from the friend's mom's point of view? Holy helicopter parenting, Batman. Did she want you to hold their hands in case they needed to use the bathroom while at the movies too? Dude, you're working. You're not a babysitter, and they're tweens. They should know better than to jump in the pool in their clothes pre-movie. And it's nice that you still took them, even though your drop-off window was widened by putting his clothes in the dryer and making sure that he had something to wear. Tell your wife it won't happen again, and she can tell your son that he's not allowed to have friends over or schedule things during your workday unless she takes time off to watch them. I, 30 male, have been on edge lately, and the complications with my wife's, 31, pregnancy have only added to our stress, her even more so. After a long, messy delivery, my wife was having trouble talking and couldn't calm down and was breaking down essentially. She was just wheezing and reaching for the baby for a few minutes, and a nurse said, "You need to calm down, it's over. It's not about you anymore." After I got my wife to breathe and relax a bit, I approached the nurse and said she should have a heart and understand what my wife was and is going through. She said, "Oh, okay," in a way that made it clear she didn't care. So I just looked at her and told her to be quiet if that was how she decided she wanted to waste everyone's time. She said, "If you let me do my job, I could get you 3 on your way home soon. Is that all right?" I said I was sorry, but I wasn't going to let my wife be treated like that. And if this was a chore for her to deal with, she should rethink being a nurse. I saw her wipe a tear a bit later. I hurt her feelings, and I felt bad. My wife says while the nurse's comment was hurtful to her, she would have preferred I be more understanding. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. This nurse was exactly like the monsters who gave my mom PTSD by mistreating her during and after her birthing me. There's a notion that you stop being a real person once you become a mom, because you've essentially passed your personhood onto your kid. You yourself don't matter at all anymore. It's dangerous misogyny, and I've never felt safe with a nurse like that. I hope she gets fired. I think the nurse forgot that it's not about her. It absolutely is about both mother and baby. I kicked a nurse out for having an attitude and requested a different one. I just had a baby, and I didn't care what was going on in her life at that time to have a crappy attitude, but I wasn't about to deal with it. 24 hours of labor followed by an emergency C-section. Get your attitude out of my room. You did the right thing. You're a great husband for standing up for your wife. Yes, most of us don't want conflicts, especially in stressful situations. But your wife went through serious trauma, and that was a seriously unkind thing to say to her. It's not about you anymore. It's messed up. Your baby needs a healthy mother, not someone who disregards her own health and struggles. Precisely. The nurse's comment makes it seem like she was just a vessel, and now that she's emptied, she doesn't matter anymore. She's still a patient who needs care. No nurse should be speaking to a patient like that. OP should report this incident to her supervisor, if for nothing else to show her that there are consequences should she do this to another patient in the future. I, 18 female, have been receiving a social pension from the state since my father passed away 5 years ago. At first it was my mother, 54, who received the money in her account. But as soon as I turned 18, the money started going into my account. My mother immediately told me to sign a document that would allow her to keep receiving the money on her account. And when I refused, she yelled at me and generally tried to guilt trip me into caving in. So I felt like I had no choice. Fortunately, my country's laws didn't allow it, so I kept receiving the money. Then she told me to transfer the money to her. So I did, but she only allowed me to keep a ridiculously small part of it. The social pension is around $614. She only let me keep $25. Then her final offer was $50. I just want to be independent with my own money, save for college, my future, etc. Yet she claims that I'll only waste it for treats. Yesterday I had enough. At first I asked her to let me leave $75 for myself. She said no, so I didn't send her anything. She called me cruel and greedy and told me that she was ashamed of my behavior and I should be ashamed too. She then told me that this money helped her survive when we were poor a few years ago, saying that was most likely another attempt to guilt trip me, as she and my stepfather are prosperous nowadays. They buy themselves new cars quite frequently, buy expensive dinners for themselves from time to time, and can afford extensive renovations in our house, purely to make it more aesthetically pleasing. She also claimed that she has bills to pay and my expenses with that money. When I said that I could chip in, pay rent, and pay for whatever bills I generate, she of course refused. After shouting at me yesterday, she's been giving me the silent treatment. I don't know what to do anymore. Am I the idiot? Edit. I'm not American, so US laws don't apply to me. Not the idiot. This is your money. Yours, not hers. You're 18, old enough to have and be responsible for your money and decide what it's spent on. Keep your money. I'm guessing that your mother probably received her own death benefits after your father passed. Still, they stopped once she got remarried to your stepfather. The fact that your country's laws don't allow you to have the money sent directly to her should be a sign that she's trying to do something she shouldn't. Ooh, good catch regarding mom's benefits being cut off due to remarriage. This is exactly what's going on. OP, don't give her anything. She's been stealing from you this whole time. And now that you're an adult and she doesn't have access to this money, she's freaking out. And it appalls me that his mom is being so selfish. Through her new marriage, she has financial security, but doesn't want OP to have this money? And of course she's guilt-tripping her with the fact that she did the bare minimum a parent is legally required to do for her kid. Keep the money and ignore mommy dearest. Wonder if the motivation is control, not financial. I agree with you. Considering how quickly OP's mom shut down OP's suggestion that she pay for the expenses she generates, it doesn't seem that the mom would cooperate by discussing the details of an independent adult's budget. This sounds more like greed and control than trying to teach OP the value of $1 and how to budget.